Welcome back to the program. Well, information management provider Veritas has released a new study into the digital behaviour of Australians, finding nearly 70% of office workers are data hoarders, admitting to keeping 66% of the files they create, with the oldest files on their computer on average dating back as far as 7 years. To take us through the report in more detail, Louis Tague, Managing Director at Veritas, joins us now from our Sydney CBD studio. Just on data hoarders, what does it mean to be a data hoarder?
Oh, hi, James. Yeah, look, I think data hoarding is around, employees and organisations just keeping all of their data, having no real information management policies and just storing everything, all of the data that ever comes into their inbox and or files they create. A lot of the data hoarders, some of the information that we got at the statistics was that data hoarders typically are storing 67% of the information they actually create.
Wow. I mean, and I suppose what does that and the broader study say about our digital behaviour as Australians?
Look, as Australians, we're just storing more and more information. The growth of digital information, especially in Australia, is absolutely accelerating. And it really causes within our businesses some big issues around increases in costs in terms of just managing that data, but also around the risks of managing what that data actually is. A lot of the data statistics suggest that 30% of that data that's stored actually has no business, legal or regulatory value at all. And some of that data is actually private or confidential data, and some of it is also copyrighted. It does put organisations at risk as well, and also adds to the complexity of managing data processes within an organisation.
Why do you think we're holding on to it then? Why are we hoarding it?
Well, I think it's a cultural issue really. I think for years and years we've basically just stored anything because storage or digital storage has been relatively cheap. So organisations and individuals haven't had to think about deletion or actually even categorising data. So now I think we're getting to a point where the information is growing so much, there's so much information out there that it's become apparent that we actually have to have a policy around data, especially within organisations, to effectively manage it and ensure that individuals and organisations have decisions to make about that data.
Because this is just an issue that's going to grow, isn't it, considering, as you say, the level of data, the sheer volume of data that we're now creating.
Absolutely. I think that the data that we have suggests that information is growing at about 40% year on year. You know yourself that the information that you're storing just as a private citizen is growing, and you're trying to think about where to put that information. And I think as you look at our largest organisations in Australia, that growth is very large, and it just really adds to the complexity of managing that information.
And is this unique to us, or is this something that we're seeing more broadly? I mean, are there any traits here in Australia that are unique or shared amongst other economies? Oh,
look, it's a global trend, and we do share a lot of those things, but certainly some of the things that came out specifically for Australia is that, Australian professionals are actually spending up to 10% more time in terms of searching and finding that critical data within their organisations, and that really impacts our productivity. And the other statistic come out specifically for Australians is that, we are potentially storing 10% more risky information than the rest of the world in terms of our data repositories.
So what should we be doing, I suppose, both from a corporate perspective, but as well as from a private citizen's perspective?
Well, I think, at a very high level, it's about having a data information policy. And, as an individual, you can start to make decisions about your information and what information you're going to keep and what information you're going to archive and or delete. And organisations need to do the same thing. We need to be a culture that actually values the information, and we then try to identify the really valuable pieces of information, and we put policies and procedures in place to not only protect it, but ensure that it's always available to us. And our largest organisations, they need to be thinking about that as well, because as we move into this digital economy, it's all about being able to react with speed and be able to use that critical information that organisations have, and that will be their competitive advantage as we move through this digital economy.
And that implementation at a corporate level of policies around these issues. I mean, is that something that's being instituted now, or are we a little bit behind the curve when it comes to that?
I think we've seen a little bit of it, but, I think in respect to the Australian IT environment, we're actually at the forefront of what I call digital transformation in terms of our transition. I think that we're rapidly seeing the emergence of the chief data officers and those sorts of things, which is exactly what we're seeing around the rest of the world. But I still think we've got a way to go in terms of being able to, effectively, confidently understand where information is and being able to have those policies and procedures in place to manage it effectively.
All right, Louis Tague, really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thanks for your time.